Hi, ladies and gentlemen. I'm John Munsell, the host, producer, and creator of this program called Communicating Today. We've been on Channel 10 for a long, long time here. For over 15 years. We've well past our 500th program, and we've had many interesting shows for you in the past. I know that tonight will be absolutely no exception, because we have featured on our show for tonight's program on Communicating Today a terrific organization, one of my pet organizations since I used to belong to this wonderful program called Toastmasters International. And we're going to find out what this program is all about, this terrific organization. It's been around for a long, long time. Longer than my TV show on Channel 10, that's for sure. But for those of you who watch us on a regular basis, you know we come on 3 times every week. We come on every Sunday afternoon at 3:30, every Wednesday evening in prime time at 8:30 p.m., and every Friday morning at 6:30 a.m. for you early birds. Now, the program for tonight it's based on Toastmasters International, as I said before, and you see some brochures sprinkled around behind us on our set, which are some of the brochures that they have to offer, that training programs and so forth. To get started with our program, let me introduce my 2 guests. First one sitting on my immediate right in the middle between the 2 of us is Annelie Weber, who is a past district governor of District 18 of the Toastmasters International. She has retired after serving nearly 28 years as a professional staffer and executive assistant to the General Counsel and to the chairman of the Committee on the Judiciary of the United States House of Representatives. Annelie is a distinguished Toastmaster, the highest award that Toastmasters can bestow on its leaders, and was elected to serve as the District 18 governor. As District 18 governor, she took the district from a ranking of 46th in the world to number 7, wow, and number 3 in the entire United States. Her involvement with Toastmasters International goes back more than 25 years. She serves also as the Secretary-Treasurer of the Korean War Veterans Memorial Foundation, so cool, and as the Assistant Editor of the Airborne Quarterly, a digest of airborne history published by her husband under the auspices of the American Airborne Association. She's an alumna of the University of Maryland, the Terrapins, yay, where she obtained her BA and master's degrees. Annelie is German by birth, but American by choice. How about that? Annelie and her husband reside on a farm in the outskirts of New Windsor, Maryland, near Frederick, Maryland, and she shares her home with 2 Great Danes, 2 cats, some geese, and some other critters. So, Annelie, welcome to our program.
Thank you so much, John.
Wonderful. And without further ado, my other guest sitting on my far right over here is Mr. Aref Dajani, who is a former district governor of District 27, District 18, right, District 27.
There you go.
Former district governors, both of them. By day, Aref Dajani is a Washington-based mathematical statistician. I was practicing that word, statistician, and I got it right this time. A certified project manager. By night, Aref is a professional opera singer and peace bridge builder. So this business about opera singing, Aref, I think maybe we ought to put you to the test now, and as we agreed before the program, give us about 10 seconds of one of your famous arias.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
This comes from an aria from the opera Falstaff by Verdi. I'll first sing it, and then I'll tell you what it means. Bocca baciata non perde ventura, ein si rinnova come fa la luna. And of course, I dedicate this to Annelie. And it means, luscious lips never die away. Instead, they are born like the rising of the moon.
Oh, isn't that sweet? How about that, Annelie? Isn't that nice? Thank you very much, Aref. I really appreciate that. In addition to being an opera singer, he also enjoys backyard volleyball, yes, no stress bowling, meaning lowest score wins.
Low score wins.
Right? B-rated science fiction movies.
The worse, the better.
Right? Aref served last year as District 27 governor, as we mentioned before, leading a territory stretching from the Skyline, listen to this tremendous territory, Skyline Drive to the Chesapeake Bay, from the Anacostia River to the Rappahannock, which encompasses 190 chapters and 4,000 members. Amazing, such a tremendous large territory.
Actually, Annelie beats me.
Is that right?
She has portions of 5 states, including the entire state of Delaware.
Oh my goodness gracious, you 2 guys, unbelievable as district governors. is the third member that was supposed to be on our show tonight, but unfortunately she couldn't make it. Something unfortunate came up. Her name is Doris Ann Martin, who is also a former district governor of one of the Toastmaster districts, and happened to be the first female district governor in Toastmasters, which used to be many, many years ago a male organization, but Doris Ann was the first female district governor, and she was actually the very first guest on this program, Communicating Today,
500
way back
plus
in
episodes ago.
1989 on show number 1. So that's why we wanted to have her come back again tonight, but unfortunately she couldn't make it. But Doris Ann, if you're out there watching our program, our finest, wonderful, most gracious greetings from Annelie, and Aref and myself.
But one thing I have to say about Doris Ann, she is the queen of integrity, values, and just all in all, just good decision making. Right. And I'm sorry that we couldn't have her here today because she would say especially about how values are important to leadership, and I hope we get a chance to talk about integrity tonight.
Well, we'll certainly try to get Doris Ann on one of our future programs sometime in the near future. But let's start right out, and I think we'll probably turn here to Annelie Weber to find a little bit more about this terrific organization that we just introduced called Toastmasters International. And Annelie, you want to tell us a little bit about how this thing got started, when, and a little bit of the history of it?
Well, back in early 1900s, 1903, Ralph Smedley decided that, who was an educational leader at the Y, realized that his young men really did not know how to speak well, how to write, how to hold meetings, or any of those social crazes. So he decided he would create a club where it could be learned. And they were looking for a name for that club, something that was kind of socially acceptable and also didn't mean hard work. So they called it Toastmasters, because in those days they did a lot of toasting. And
we still do.
Yes. So that club was so successful that others came and visited the club and wanted to have the same kind of opportunity to learn and to grow and become leaders. So it just became a chain reaction. Today, for example, we have over 11,300 clubs in 90 countries, 220,000 members, and about 5 million Toastmasters have gone through the system. So there's some that are like Aref and me that are here forever. And there are some who maybe, like you, stayed a year and then got out of the system what they wanted and then left the organization. But you know something, they still keep it close to their heart.
In fact, one thing I have to add to that, we even had a chapter at one point in Antarctica. We were on all 7 continents, and I fully expect that we will get back there again.
I can imagine. If I know Toastmasters, and I know you guys, and the rest of the district governors are just like you two are, we sure will get back there again. That's for certain. Now, I know it's all about the art and science of learning, practicing communications, and a very important word called leadership.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And I know that Toastmasters, Annelie, has always, and Aref, that emphasized the kind of the communications and the speaking part of it. But Annelie, before the program tonight, you were telling me that now they're starting to place a little bit more emphasis on that other word called leadership. And what's that all about?
Well, Toastmasters is long known to be the undisputed leader in communications, and they now want to become the undisputed leader in leadership as well. So they are restructuring, they're reprogramming themselves, and because I'm now running for the International Board of Directors, I know a little bit about it, but I won't spill any secret. So leadership is very important because, first of all, we know that good speakers are often imputed to be good leaders. Sometimes that is not necessarily the case. Most of the time it is. So we want to say, okay, if you're a good leader, then we can assume or we can know you're also a good speaker, or vice versa. So leadership is very important, and it also Toastmasters simply empowers you. So we don't want to just empower you in verbal communication, but we also want to empower you in leading men, women, children, our leaders for tomorrow, today.
I need to add to that as well, that very often human resources and other places in the work give very good training in management. The way we define management as motivating people to do good work through accomplishing tasks. That is helping to fulfill a mission. What leaders do instead is inspire people to action by following a vision. And we find that if people really get into a vision, they'll be inspired, they'll be motivated, and they will get that mission done. Yeah. So we see that people are the ultimate resource. in any project.
And over the last 90 or so years that this organization has been in existence, we have graduated literally hundreds upon hundreds of famous people, famous alumni. I just have a couple of names that I'm going to do a little name dropping here. Peter Coors, the founder of the Coors Brewery, famous brewery company. Debbie Fields, founder of Mrs. Fields Cookies, who has franchises all over the world. Tom Peters, who is a very famous motivator, public speaker, and business person. Linda Lingle, who is the governor of Hawaii. So we have governors, we have mayors, we have congresspeople, we have astronauts, we have all kinds of people from all walks of life, and the list is so endless that we wouldn't have nearly enough time. We'd have to have another half hour to do our program to mention even a portion of the wonderful alumni that have graduated from this wonderful Toastmasters International organization.
One thing that's relevant today is that we do reflect the diversity of our companies and our communities, that we get people from all different walks of life into Toastmasters because it's an affordable way to learn by doing, and it's an equalizer. Someone who may be a CEO in a corporation may get an evaluation on a presentation by someone who is a homemaker, and vice versa. And we're all in it together. We're all here to support each other.
You know, John, one other thing is that corporate, Fortune 500 corporate entities are really embracing Toastmasters. For example, AT&T, Bank of America, for example, the AstraZeneca. We create clubs and they realize the value that the Toastmasters program has to offer because it makes their employees more effective communicators, better planners, better meeting holders, briefers, teachers, so that you have the communities where we invite everybody to come, but then you also have the company clubs, and most of the Fortune 500 will have a Toastmasters within the organization.
And it's so big in the Washington area because it is considered official federal government training, and a best practice comes at the Naval Audit Service, those people who audit all the expenses of the military. They see that these people have to very much communicate. The Auditor General of the Navy has required all new employees to join Toastmasters at the Naval Audit Service. They are required to stay for a year until they finish that first award called the Competent Communicator, and if they haven't finished it in a year, they have to stay another year.
Wow.
So that is absolutely required training, and they get so much out of it.
Folks, we are rolling, and this program moves so quickly, as I told you before at the beginning of the show. We're a little past the halfway point. It's a 30-minute program.
Feels like we've just been like 3 minutes.
15 or 16 minutes already gone down the drain. We don't have that much time left. We always like to reintroduce our show, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who may have tuned in a little bit late. Hope there aren't legions of you out there who did that. But I'm John Munsell, the host, producer, and creator of Communicating Today, the name of our program. My two wonderful guests with me today are sitting on my immediate right here in the middle, Annelie Weber, past district governor of District 18 of Toastmasters out in the Frederick, Maryland, and a whole bunch of other areas, tremendous areas.
5 states.
And Aref Dajani, the opera guy who sang a couple of bars for you previously at the beginning of our program, who's a past district governor of District 27, which covers Northern Virginia, and a whole bunch of other territory. They are our guests for tonight's program with an organization called
Toastmasters International.
And we have all their brochures on display behind us.
And we have more than that.
Now, communicating is so important, folks, as you and I and all of us know, all of us in Toastmasters know. And in fact, there was a study done at Harvard University many years ago that said of all the phobias that people can experience in life, that is the fear of dying, the fear of flying, the fear of being bitten by a poisonous snake, or whatever, and on and on and on, falling off a 1,000-foot cliff, flying in an airplane, that the worst fear of all, the worst phobia of all, at the study that was done at Harvard University, is the fear of getting up in front of a group of people to give a talk.
More than death.
More than death itself.
More than death.
Now, isn't that something? That is unbelievable.
There are even some who said they'd rather have a root canal done without an Novocaine.
And that's something when they talk about root canals.
Yes.
But I think that we still need to talk more about leadership because communication is such a key aspect of leadership, and the reverse is true. If you are a good communicator and you had no interest in being the boss, people will approach you. One thing that's really special about Toastmasters is that we emphasize service, that you cannot be a leader unless you are a strong member of a team. And the converse is true. If you are a strong member of a team, people will ask you to lead. Leadership is service, leadership is communication, and it goes the other way around.
They go hand in hand, don't they?
Hand in hand.
If you're a good leader, you're probably a great communicator. If you're a great communicator, the chances are you'll become a great leader someday.
And with an emphasis on service.
And I have some very important names from history that we can go back to. Way back in the Second World War, there was a gentleman by the name of Adolf Hitler who ruled Germany, caused the beginning of the Second World War, caused the deaths of 50 million people during that terrible war, which lasted some 5, 6, 7 years. And he was a magnificent orator. He was a great speaker. He mesmerized the German people into following him per person.
To the abyss.
To the abyss.
The person who
to the
impresses me
destruction of the
more is
country.
Winston Churchill.
And Winston Churchill was another one.
He was a stutterer.
And he was a stutterer, and he learned how to become a magnificent speaker and orator. Franklin Roosevelt.
There you go.
And John Kennedy. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Roosevelt. The only fear we have is fear itself. And on and on and on.
How
Maybe
about
you guys
Ronald
can
Reagan,
think.
the great communicator?
Ronald Reagan, the great communicator.
And it's not in the length of what you speak, but in the passion with the time that you have.
And we have another name that I'll bring up now, something that's current, because I mentioned some from out of the past in history. There's a gentleman that we never heard of about a year ago by the name of Barack Obama, who is on national television now and who's the favorite to become the next president, possibly, of the United States of America, the first African-American to boot, and he's considered to be a magnificent speaker, a magnificent orator, a communicator, a motivator, and here's another example of a person who's a tremendous communicator.
Well, John, he is a motivator, and he is passionate about his programs, about how he feels and what he sees in America as he travels from coast to coast. And because he feels so passionate, he's able to instill that into you, because compassion becomes contagious. When you feel so powerful about something, people will listen to you, and then they will judge and evaluate you, and hopefully that we will be able to do, come the election time. But it is the passion and the power that makes you recognized and sometimes idealized as a leader, not necessarily so.
Right.
Another person who I think of is Ann Richards of Texas, how she was a keynote speaker at a Democratic convention, and that one speech that she gave propelled her to becoming governor a number of years later.
Right, and before the program, Annelie, you were telling me about Mario Cuomo,
That's
the
correct.
former governor of the state of New York.
Sure.
Gave a keynote address at the Democratic National Convention, and because of the magnificent speech that he gave on that convention,
They all thought he would become the president.
become the next president. Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
At least a candidate for it.
Exactly right. Now, in Toastmasters, we talk about different kinds of aspects that make you a better communicator, a better speaker, a better leader, and we talk about things like voice is so important, to be able to speak loudly and clearly, and we have something called vocal variety. You guys
Yes.
want to elaborate a little bit what that means, vocal variety?
Well, it's, if you just hear somebody droning along or being just
Saying
absolutely monotone or bored or
Too
so.
soft or too loud.
Or for example, if you have a very high-pitched voice, which luckily I don't, but for women with high-pitched voices, they don't come across as credible because of the high-pitched. But in Toastmasters, we have cues for that. Right. So also gestures. As you can see, I talk with my hands. I can't help it. Yeah. But it sometimes underscores a point I want to make. Sure. And so if you don't have that, it is so boring to see somebody standing there with their arms pinned to their side and nothing else happens.
Or worse, in their pockets.
Okay, yes, jingling with their loose change. So it is something that you simply learn and acquire and practice in Toastmasters.
And these are some of the attributes that we learn in Toastmastering, that's for sure.
And we learn from each other. That's what's really great.
And as the three of us have been doing here on the stage here today on our set, eye contact. When you talk, you're looking at me, you talk to me, you look at me. When Annelie talks to me, she looks at me, and she also looks over to you to include you in the conversation. We talk and we look at each other, so we have eye contact.
Because the other huge thing is that we listen.
Right, exactly, right. And I guess a little sense of humor doesn't hurt.
Sure. No, it never does.
Throw that in there. That was one of the attributes that President Reagan had. The great communicator. He had all kinds of jokes and stories that he could tell.
And he was able to laugh at himself, especially about his age.
Right.
Yeah. He was always able to laugh.
Self-deprecating humor when you laugh at yourself sometimes.
And John, sometimes things that happen in your life are sometimes the most humorous.
Sure.
So when you want to make a point, you tell a story from your life. You tell what happened. And an audience usually doesn't remember most of what they hear, but they do remember the story because it touched their lives. So if you're effectively
I will never forget the
communicating-
story of how you came to America. Never
There you
forget that
go.
story.
It just makes.
I wish we had more time to
communication
relate
better.
that because that's a terrific story.
It is a
We're
great
going to have
story.
you guys come back again for a sequel, an encore to this, and we'll talk about
I'll
this.
do it only if Annelie comes.
We'll talk about Annelie's coming to America from Germany, and some more arias from you and the operatic
Works for me.
thing.
Works for me.
We'll have a terrific follow-up.
Sure.
That's for sure. Yeah, so we talked about humor is important. Preparation, being prepared, knowing what you're going to do, and how you're
Knowing
going to
your
do it.
audience is the biggest thing.
Very
and
important.
And I have the best trick. If you're not sure where your audience is on a specific issue,
Right.
ask them in the beginning and then tell your speech. I have a good sneaky trick for everyone. That if you should always ask 3 questions at the beginning of your speech. The one question that tells you something about the audience. A second question that tells you about the audience. And the third question should always be, how many of you never answer questions when they're asked?
Right.
So that gets everybody else raising their hands. So that way you engage the audience and you know they're going to listen to whatever you have to say.
And also something called the profession called advertising, marketing
Sure.
and advertising. There are 3 precepts in advertising and marketing: are tell people what you're going to tell them, then you tell them,
And
then
tell
you
them
told them what you
tell
told
them.
them. So you get the 3-step thing, so they can't forget what you're talking
That's
about
got
because
it.
you hit them 3 different
Absolutely.
times, you know. And those 3 precepts. But another thing that we said, practice makes perfect. When we were kids,
Sure.
Mom and Dad used to say, Johnny, practice because practice makes perfect.
And I don't believe in mirrors. I believe in practicing in front of people.
Right,
Yes.
exactly. Know your equipment. If you're going to be showing slides, if you're going to have a computer involved in your presentation, if you're going to have a flip chart in your presentation, become familiar with the equipment. Know how to handle the
And
equipment.
have multiple backups.
And multiple backups. And those the Boy Scout, the Girl Scout
Be
motto,
prepared.
be prepared.
Yes.
Preparation is the key, and the other P is practice, practice,
Practice,
practice,
practice.
makes perfect. So these are something. In fact, there was an old saying that went something like this: the key to successful communications, leadership, practicing success in public speaking, or any kind of speaking for that matter, whether it's in a group of 5 people, 10 people, or 500 people, or 1,000 people, it is basically know what you're going to talk about. It's 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration. You know,
That's
you got to
correct.
work at it.
Yes,
And
you
these
do.
lights are bright.
There's no easy way out. You got to work at it.
But see what makes in Toastmasters, when you do practice your speeches, you have these evaluators who will tell you, this is what you did great, Aref, and or
Evaluation.
here's where you need to work a little bit better. So because if you practice the wrong things, it's not going to get any better with your speaking. So these evaluators that we have in Toastmasters help you become a better speaker.
In fact, I need to go farther. Evaluations are truly the hallmark of organization because we not only evaluate communicators, we evaluate leaders. The words critique, critical, criticism
Yeah.
are simply not in our vocabulary. If someone wants blunt criticism, I will give them thorough feedback. Huge difference because I will say what you can do better in a positive way.
Right. Yeah.
Totally different mindset.
And when
Yeah.
we talk about evaluation, when you give your little talk in a Toastmasters meeting, a typical Toastmasters club, as the 3 of us are so familiar with, you get evaluations, but you get a word, the emphasis on the word is positive
Yes, definitely.
evaluation. We don't come back and say, well, gee, that was a terrible speech, you know. Why did you do
No
this?
way.
And why did you do that? And what were you doing with your hands? And
No.
where were you looking? We don't do
What's,
that.
what's even worse is the whitewash.
Yeah.
That was an amazingly good speech. I
it
can't
wasn't.
think of anything you could do better. It's like, let me leave. It's like,
No, we don't do
Now,
that.
there's tremendous sources of learning when it comes to becoming a more effective speaker, communicator, a leader. Certainly, we've been talking about Toastmasters International. There are other organizations. There is an organization called Dale Carnegie. There is the National Speakers Association. There's the Hopkins program. There's all kinds of programs out there.
expensive.
Yes.
College and high school,
Expensive.
adult and evening class training. Where they have public speaking courses that you can take. All kinds of wonderful
Classes
things.
on the work site that are $600 for an 8-hour class.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I just got the 2.5-minute warning, folks, which you know in the football games, that means we're getting down toward the end of the
Well,
game.
since we talked about monies, for less than a dinner for 2, I can give you a membership in Toastmasters right here in your neighborhood for a full year.
Right.
Whereas where you can become an accomplished speaker, do the manuals, and at the end of the year, you might just be nearer to that dream that you've been always wanted to have.
Right.
Whatever that dream may be.
Right.
But you made a decision, you joined Toastmasters, and through Toastmasters you get all the empowerment Dajani.
And I just have to throw in what it did for me. It helped me get 2 promotions of work, helped me get a PhD, and it helped me become a professional speaker when I wasn't even looking for
Yes,
it.
there you go.
And we could go on and on and on, folks, but ladies and
There we
gentlemen, we're getting
go.
down to our last minute and a half or so, so we got to start wrapping it up. I want to thank you two folks for being wonderful, terrific, enthusiastic, dynamite guests on our program, Communicating Today. Come back and see us again sometime soon when we'll do more operatic arias, and we'll find out more about Annelie's trip from Germany over to the United States, when she just loved coming to this country and being the wonderful Toastmaster representative that she is.
But more importantly,
Both of you are.
Fairfax rules.
John,
Right, absolutely.
you are such a wonderful host, and I've watched many of your shows, and it's always a pleasure to come on. And believe it or not, Aref and I couldn't just wait till today. Today's your 517th show, so I hope you will make many, many more. And maybe we can come down to your 550th show.
Okay.
Or sooner.
That's a
You
deal.
are
If not sooner.
wonderful. You're a wonderful host, and thank you for having us.
I got to start wrapping it. Thank you so much for coming, folks. And I got to start wrapping it up now. Annelie Weber was my first guest right here on my immediate right, on my far right over here. Aref, Dajani, the operatic singer. And I know we practiced the pronunciation of his name before the program, and I think I finally got it right this time. Thank you two guys. Wonderful for coming on. We'll do it again sometime soon. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching our show. We always go out by saying, keep on communicating for success and for Toastmastering and for communications, for great speaking and for terrific leadership. Come back and see us again next week. Bye-bye.